the 12th of June, the Ukraine media sent a continuous operation. Your anchor is Svetlana Dnyachipenko. We are talking about the Pride March. After 2-year hiatus, it comes back to Kiev. We are talking to Anna Sharygina, the head of the board of KyivPride NGO. Welcome, ma'am. Before everything, let's talk about the Equality March. Let us zero in on what is going on this month. We have seen the educational festival. What has happened there? Thank you for the question. It's very important, although it's not that visible. It's not an educational festival. It's a charity event. What we had done was to launch a campaign for gathering 4 million hryvnias for 5 different foundations that are trying to meet the needs of the Ukrainian military in terms of rehabilitation of the wounded. Now we are collecting money, and at the festival we accumulated 160,000 hryvnias. You see the embroidered shirt. It's one of the merch that we are selling, and 40% of that will go for this charity cause. Of course, not all the businesses that were claiming to participate did not live up to their commitments, but LGBT and other inclusive businesses have got engaged. At the festival, there were a lot of people present. The way I see it, it was a powerful moment because Kiev did not see the Pride events over 2 years. We conducted a lot of lectures and workshops on mental health, individual consultations, and we are still engaged in pressing issues as regards the Ukrainian society. At the final stage of this lecturing tour was a lecture and talking with the military. We also have delivered KyivPride awards for the individuals and businesses and the TV outlets that are supporting LGBT community. How many people participated in that festival, and what was the geographical presence? I know that you delivered questionnaires. More than 1,000 people attended. I'm not sure that this is a simple issue to communicate. We'll be thinking further on what to do next, but what we faced was the challenge when juvenile police banned the presence of the minors. It seems to be a very strange thing to have happened. We wanted young people just to see what's going on and to show that there was no danger for the minors at the territory of the festival. But juvenile police were very difficult to talk to. In particular, I am talking about minors because a few of them came to capital city from different locations because for them KyivPride is associated with for the queer people with the safe space. It is important to make sure that young people know that they are in safety here. People also were coming from different locations, perhaps from all over Ukraine. We've seen a lot of volunteers coming in with an aim to help us. So geography is including all Ukraine. And another volunteer came from Canada to help, to grant a helping hand. In general, what is the age? Who is the oldest participant? In the West, we see people even who have reached the 100 years old. How about Ukraine? It should be recognized that this year's Pride in Kiev, because of the restrictions of the resources, We failed to include the people who would attend, those who are physically challenged. We know that this has been a faux pas, but we were restricted in our resources. As for the older people, sometimes they are mobility challenged, and perhaps in Ukraine it is a challenge for all people that are physically challenged. Throughout Ukraine, there were a lot of young persons. At the same time, we saw many people, some in their 30s and 40s and 50s. I would believe that half of them account for that age. But in our registration form, we did not ask people about their age. How about the response of the far right? They seem to like to obstruct such events. To be honest with you, if I can be honest with you, I would like to turn to the far right forces and tell them that this is very important to stay. Homophobia is not an urgent issue. We have a common enemy. We have a lot in common which prevails over what is different in us. For 2 years since the full-scale invasion, we did our utmost to support, for example, far-right groups, for example, who are fighting the enemy, who are serving in the Ukrainian military. So I think we are entitled to defend our rights, to be visible in our support. As for the LGBT soldiers who are serving, who have been serving, the veterans, they are amongst the Ukrainian military, of course. That is to say, I don't understand why the far right should come to our events. Far right perhaps is the wrong definition. All of us sometimes are far right forces. But some people would attend KyivPride and with a claim that they don't want to see such an event happening. It's strange that a person has come to see something that he or she doesn't want to see. If you don't like the Pride, don't attend the Pride March. Now let us come down to the Equality March. As for the organizational issues, I know that there was a controversy with the police. And now, during the educational festival, you mentioned that the juvenile police restricted the access of the minors to the venue. Did you talk to the city authorities, to the police in terms of the safety conditions? As for the march, we understand that those who cannot make their own decisions, they must be taken care of in terms of the safety for the minors, those who are of full legal age. They understand the risks and they can pass their own decision whether to join or not to join. And we dissuade younger generation to participate in such a march. What we must do, or we will have to do, is to take this on board, perhaps not now, but we promise to the younger generation what we have been promised, that after the victory, everything will be different. As for the talks with the city authorities and the police, you might have seen that we have issued a joint communique with the city military administration. After that, we had a fruitful closed meeting with the police where we discuss how can we make sure that the march takes place, and it is difficult to guarantee safety in the Kiev subway. And of course, the police is restricted in their human resource. We understand that during the KyivPride March, Ukraine will be in the center of the international community's focus. I have been to the Ukraine Recovery Forum in Berlin, and I know that at the weekend we'll see other events taking place to make sure that Ukraine receives all the weaponry it needs. We also promote the idea of arms delivery to Ukraine. The idea of March is to make sure the visibility of the needs of Ukraine at the international arena and to demand that Ukraine should be protected from Russia's aggression, because LGBT community is part and parcel of the Ukrainian society. People who are suffering from the Russian air raids and missile attacks. At the international arena, we keep talking about that. We believe this will bring more result for Ukraine, do more good to Ukraine rather than opposing the idea of March. As for the security, we have agreed with the police the plan and the route of the march. We are taking care as organizers of the security measures. The march will be closed. It will be available only through the pre-registered forms. So the march will take place in the Kiev metro. No, that's not right. It will not be in the subway. It will be in the streets, but not far away from the safety places where the places of safety are available, including the shelters. Do you know the number of people who have been licensed? As for the number of people, we have agreed on the number of 500 participants. These will be individual activists and organized columns of marchers. And there will be a lot of presence from different diplomatic missions and international community. You have mentioned that small businesses have engaged in the educational festival, and large-scale businesses are also participating and helping you to organize. How many businesses have you seen joining in the effort? I would like to tell you that it's a good, and I'm happy to say that despite all the difficulties that Ukraine is facing, once we have been allowed to use Western-produced weaponry against Russian territory, I work in the Kharkiv city. I know how difficult the situation here is. It's difficult to believe in our victory. It's difficult to keep on fighting. And it's a good thing that businesses are joining in supporting the Pride, KyivPride. Now that businesses are claiming that they're ready at least to put their avatars on the websites, it is something. It's a powerful message to other people about the democratic values of Ukraine and the social responsibility of Ukrainian business. Do we have more people or fewer people? It's difficult to say now. We will count the chickens at the end of June. Last year, the march did not take place, but Ukrainian participants were participating in different countries and European cities. Do we want to have such a practice continue this year? Last year, you see, the columns of the Ukrainian participants in other Pride parades was a substitute for the Kiev Pride. This year, we have thought it's an important thing for the Kiev Pride to come back to Kiev. As for the Ukrainian participants, we will have a Ukrainian column participating in the Euro Pride in Greece, in Thessalonians. Thank you very much. I would like journalists to join in and put their questions if they have ones.
Thank you. With the war going on and everything, why was it important for you to hold the Pride, despite the risks and complications of it?
Дивіться, мені
I have a heap of arguments to put forward. Personally, for me, is a priority thing. Indeed, the public events, such as a march, have not been held in Kiev for 3 years now. And our communication with the society, with the police, has demonstrated that we've seen a big difference compared to the years when the march was taking place. My personal take is that human rights are very important for Ukraine and are very urgent for Ukraine. I want as many people as possible that people talk about this. As a lesbian, I am very much interested in talking about the human rights for women and for the LGBT community. This is why I believe that KyivPride has always been an urgent issue. And this year it just has happened. That's point one. The second point that is urging me to do this is the following. Perhaps people who are now living in the occupied territories or are prisoners of war and are LGBT people and people who are living through difficult circumstances when they cannot afford to fight for their rights in a current situation. I personally do this for the sake of those who cannot afford to fight for their rights. I am against the idea that the military will come and they will begin to build this country as best as they can. Such a course cannot be postponed until the future. It must be done today. What is the key slogan of the KyivPride this year? You have asked me a number of questions with one question. This year's logo is Together to Equality and the Victory. The message being that the Ukrainian LGBT community is part of the Ukrainian community, as there are other people in Ukraine who don't belong to us, but this is our contribution to victory. One of the goals of the Pride Parade is to make the people know that LGBT is contributing. You should not be afraid of who you are and what you are. They want to be recognized as part of the Ukrainian community. This is an important thing for us to go beyond the framework of LGBT community. The next point is that there is a powerful community of LGBT military community. Not all of them are open, but part of them will join us. We want the Ukrainian community and the international community to see that there are LGBT Ukrainian military, and they are not something that are separated from the society. We want people to know that they have the same values. LGBT is an organic part of the Ukrainian society. We all strive for the victory over Ukraine. We are all united in our efforts. And again, I understand your point is to highlight a couple of legislation bills that the Parliament has failed to approve for a long time now. Indeed, thank you for that reminder. Yes, there are two bills sitting in the Parliament, and these are two specific examples that show that LGBT don't have equal rights. For example, the hatred crimes, and we have seen the surge of those in Kiev included and in other cities as well. LGBT military have been victims of such crimes. And that's a special point that I would like to make. This legislation bill, also the other is about civil partnerships that will empower people who are now at the front line and are risking their lives. This is important for them to be not just lovers, not just neighbors. They want to be recognized by the government, by the state, by state institutions as legitimate couples that are equal to those that are married. And of course, there is a lot of work to be done here. Another question, please.
I had another question, but you partly answered it. You said several times, LGBTQ people are part of Ukraine. Is there moments, I guess, apart from what you've just talked about, where you feel that you're not part of Ukraine, that some part of society doesn't accept you, and which in particular?
Не знаю, звідки у вас дані.
I wouldn't agree that there are a lot of people who don't accept us as part of the Ukrainian society. Since the large-scale invasion has begun, the support of the Ukrainian society of the LGBT is at the level of 60%. I wouldn't know where you get your numbers. I know that there are homophobic voices.
Of Ukraine didn't support you. I was just wondering if there are instances where you don't feel supported as part of the... Sorry for the misunderstanding.
Так, дякую. Дякую за пояснення.
Thank you for that explanation. In the areas where we see such a misunderstanding, we are challenged to do a couple of things here. One is raising public awareness. According to what we see, homophobic, transphobic feelings and sentiment is tied very closely to the low level of awareness. There are a lot of people who are enjoying stereotypes and are prejudiced against other people. It grows into irrational aggression or feeling of being afraid. We are running a lot of public awareness campaigns, but one of the visible LGBT event in Ukraine, the Equality March, is called to be a marker, a signal and a message, a point where we can draw attention of the society to these particular challenges. During the KyivPride, it's in the center of public discourse, and there is a growing demand for knowing more about the rights of the LGBT. I think this is one of the ways to answer your question. Thank you, Anna. We wish you a success and a safe March of Equality. We've been talking to the head of the NGO KyivPride. We've been talking about the March of Equality coming back to Kiev after the 2-year hiatus. We will resume our work tomorrow. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you.